Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Fellas,
We
was
got
really
it.
good.
Come on, man. It's Friday night, man. The weekend's here. I need to unwind. Where's the party?
Right.
Mr.
Well, you
DJ,
know what
you
it
know
is, man.
everything.
Since I need to unwind a little bit too. I also need the boogie. You know what I mean? Can you help me out with that?
I absolutely can help you out with that. Let's
All right.
let's get moving.
Let's get it.
Shout out to the whole squad.
Look, ain't no discussion, this bang with percussion. Came from the bottom, you know I need something. Roxbury baby, the home of the hustlers. Just watch what you say, cause them women to cut you. Can't be no gremlin, I was a goon. Making them plays and busting them moves. Trips out of town, we making shit boom. Built up to win, they want me to lose. Turned to my hustle and started the wave. Ran in them cribs so we could get paid. Ran through the valley with J-Bo and Bray. Turned it up, nigga, they heard what I said. Thankful I made it to the top with no delay. And I'm dodging that fraud and fake shit. Fuck all that playing. I know I'm destined for greatness. I put that work in, no delaying. Look, running down on them ain't stopping for shit. Since a young nigga been popping, little bitch. Been had the juice, so you know that it's lit. Ain't no half stepping, they praying I slip. Smith and Wesson go and get you them clips. If we loading them up, then we letting them rip. Niggas be tough until they get hit. Watch with that faking and reaching this shit. Word to the Reaper, I'm coming for mine. When it went through your chest and it came out your spine. One phone call, now it's on to the guys. Now the young niggas blitzing, now it ain't no surprise. Fuck all the ops, free all of the guys. Can't take no work, got plays on the line. When I touch down, nigga, you know it's go time. Betting on me, you know it's all mine. Picture this, these niggas is mad, I got it lit. Had to jump in my bag, got all my shit. Had to put in that work, I grind for this. Look, speaking on me, man, you must be a fan. Don't worry about me, go and slide for your man. These niggas is broke, now I understand. I do what I want, they do what they can. Picture this, these niggas is mad, I got it lit. Had to jump in my bag, got all my shit. Had to put in that work, I grind for this. Picture this, these niggas is mad, I got it lit. Had to jump in my bag, got all my shit. Had to put in that work, I grind for this. Picture this, these niggas is mad, I got it lit. Had to jump in my bag, got all my shit. Had to put in that work, I grind for this.
Man,
That shit's so
listen,
hard.
listen, man.
That shit's so incredible. That shit's so incredible. Salute to the God, Wreak Havoc. Incredible cut.
Listen, man. I mean, yo, like it's like Steph Curry from 3, man. Like he don't miss. He
Nah,
don't
that was
miss.
fun.
He's clutch. You know what I mean? Like, that the beat never lost him at all. Like it
Absolutely,
never.
absolutely. Go out right now. Add Boogie, Wreak Havoc to your playlist.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Debut today.
Debut
The
today.
city's on fire right now because of this record.
Absolutely.
Salute to the God.
Absolutely. Hey Reek, man, you know it's all good, brother. You know it's all love, Reek. Like it's literally and figuratively all love over here from your brothers with the Sparring Minds.
Yeah, that's,
So,
come on.
you know what it is, man. You know
We-
what
we
it
just-
is.
We're
But
gonna be playing that, Sparring Minds listeners. We playing it all night. Just so
yeah,
you know,
yeah, Phyllis.
throw it back up. You know what I mean? It's gonna be one of them nights. You know what I
You'll
mean?
definitely see it again, no question.
Word up. Word up.
You'll definitely see it again. You know
Come
what I
on, man.
mean? But what's good, fellas? We back
So-
at it.
So
Oh yeah. Story time. Story time.
we got one of them ones tonight. One of those shows that's kind of. We're bringing in a special guest first off. So salute to the chef for organizing that. It's a really a dope concept, and continuing with the theme this season of grown man bars, right? So we're really having more of those deep conversations this week. We're talking about fatherhood. And it was something I came across this morning that I said, and actually it's funny, I called Little, and he was like, so the good thing about Little's Farm Minds listeners, y'all know this by now. Like most things in life, me and Little agree on. Most things in life. And so when I called him this morning, he was like, "Yeah, Chuck, you're absolutely right." So which pissed off my wife even more, and et cetera, et cetera. But I figured I'd bring it to the camp tonight. So I wanted. So dig this, Chef. You're 15 years old, right? And you kill someone, right? And now, fortunately or unfortunately, in that journey, you never get caught, you never get arrested, nothing ever happens. You get away scot-free, right? 25 years old, a decade later, you meet the perfect girl, right? And you settle down and you have a son, and life is great, right? And you live the next 20 years in this wedding bliss. You now have a 20-year-old son. Life is incredible. You're out to dinner to celebrate your 20th anniversary, and the sheriff pulls up. So, no, we got a warrant for your arrest, bro. DNA testing has says that you was the one who committed this crime X amount of years ago, right?
Ooh.
Two questions come from this. Should you have told your son that you killed somebody when you were 15 years old?
No.
You shouldn't have told him.
You shouldn't have told him. If you tell him, don't you make him a part? Isn't he a part of it? Like if you tell him, why would you tell
You're
him?
on mute, little. Yeah, we still can't hear you, God.
Yeah, we can't hear you, God.
Yeah. Well, so I don't think you're an accessory, right? I don't think that's the case. He don't look
That's
like
what I
he's
would
on
think.
mute. Something with his mic because he's not on mute.
Yeah.
God. Luckily, that's what the pre-show's for. No, so I mean, just on theory, right? Like you got a 20-year-old now, so he's been through some drama. He's been through some things. It's not father to son that you should have that conversation about.
Okay,
what
so
I did, I fucked that up. You should have moved in that way. Right? So there's a life lesson here.
I mean, yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great point. I'm just trying to find the reasoning for why you would.
There you go, Lou.
I guess that's what it is. I'm just trying to search for the reasoning and logic and why you would tell him at this age. I guess unless it's just on your conscience and you can't and you feel as though you gotta tell him. Yeah, that's
Little, you telling your son?
Wait. Now,
Are you telling him? Okay, so first off, are you telling him like in his early teens? Are you telling him at all? Or are you waiting until the Elroys come knock on the door and then you will let the cops explain it to him? Or you hoping he never?
okay. Well, this is a different scenario from the scenario we had this morning.
Correct.
But so now this is the young man.
Right.
No, I'm never telling this nigga.
You said you're not telling him?
No. I mean, why?
I
mean, because at this point in time, I mean, now you tell this person, now you put this person in a tough situation because your family, your blood, your man. But yeah, nah. He's gonna look at you weird for the rest of your life. No.
But okay, so now you got the sheriff pulling you away from the dinner table, right?
Right.
He's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And they're like,
Well, I mean,
"Or your dad has a warrant out for his vest for murder." Now he's like, "What are you talking about?" Now you're hitting him in that moment with this. That's not more drastic.
It is, but at the same time, like, okay, so you've been telling your kid all these, don't do this, don't get yourself in all this, don't do all his life. And what? Now you break it down to him, hey, I mean, you decide one day to break it down to him and be like, hey, I killed somebody. Now he's looking at you like, this motherfucker here. Like, he's been teaching me all the right things all this time, and in the background, he's actually a convict. He's a felon. He's a murderer. Fuck out of here. Nah, that nigga find that out at that table. That's all right.
Man, that's
Because hopefully, my hope is the police never come find me.
Fact. So
for
first off,
sure.
Sparring Minds listeners, Chef, you want to do your intro thing here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, this is a crazy scenario you came in on, man. But no, I'd like to welcome to our pre-show the good brother Kari. He is the founder of the Father Empowerment Circle that I've been a part of for almost probably like 2 years now, 2.5, almost 3 years now.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
that we've been linking up, man, and it's been nothing but great dialogue,
Mm,
great brotherhood, great
mm,
mentorship. It's been a lot of everything, you know what I'm saying? And we just had our
right.
meeting this past Monday, and it was a full circle, legit, like, so that was pretty dope. So yeah, man, welcome to good brother Kari, man, to the show.
What
I've
up?
been wanting to get him on for a minute, and I felt like this season was the
Uh,
best time. This title of show in particular, is right up his alley, man. So welcome to good brother Kari.
What up? What up?
Peace, brothers. Hey,
Hey, what's going on, man?
I'm checking out the names, man. I had to switch it up a little bit, man.
Yeah, hey man,
I
I'm
had
here
to hit
for
him
it.
with a Nubian nephew. You know
He
what
said the Nubian nephew, huh?
Word
I
up,
dig it.
word
Yes,
I
sir.
dig it.
Yes, sir.
I dig it.
Um,
Kari,
hey,
I'll just walk through these. We're in the pre-show right now, but this is
sure.
normally before we get started, before we get rocking and rolling. And something that came across my radar this morning. I wanted to throw it by you before we actually dove into the meat of the show. So I'm gonna run a scenario back to you so you can get the full meat of it, and then we pause. Then we can go from there to kind of figure it out, right? So, when you were 15 years old, unfortunately, you found yourself killing someone, right? Um, Subsequently thereafter, you were never arrested, never charged, never caught. Life went on for you, right? 25 years old, you find the perfect lady. You guys settle down. Life is great. She's pretty. She fills up a white t-shirt. Everything's perfect, right? You guys go on to have the son, etc., etc. You move on. You're teaching your son the game. You're giving him values. Here's how you move as a man. Here's how you respond to trauma. Here's how all of this. Here's how you rock. 20 years later, your son is now 20. You and your lady have been together many moons. You go out to celebrate your anniversary. You are now 45 years old, 30 years away from this initial incident.
Mm.
And the sheriff pulls up at the table and says, "Yo, I need to talk to you. We have a warrant for your arrest for a murder from 30 years ago."
Mm.
Is it part of your responsibility to have told your son that you committed murder when you were 15 years old?
That's heavy.
Sparring minds, man. We deal with heavy things around here. So, you
Yeah,
know
no
what I mean?
doubt.
You know what I mean?
I
We'll
mean,
get you
life is
thinking a little
heavy.
bit.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I got to think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chef and Mirror and Little were kicking it around a little bit there for a moment.
Mhm.
We had some great comments coming too. Also, shout to Kyle, shout to Reed. Hank, what's good, God?
Hank. Yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough. This is a good question.
Yeah,
'Cause that's super tough.
it's
Um,
listen. If you have been in your son's life for 20 years, right, and you're
yeah,
doing it the way that we all expect you to do it, right, or the world expects you to do it, right, there should have been not one, not two, not seven, but multiple discussions about how you handle anger in times of adversity, right? The
yep.
things that you should do or think about when these situations arise so that you can escape from them cleanly and still having a life left to live. You dig? So if you were having those discussions and your trials and tribulations didn't come up, you look like a hypocrite at 45 years old when they pulling you away from the table for doing exactly what you told him not to do.
Well, I know for myself, I'm the type of person who values peace of mind. And carrying that around with me would interrupt my peace of mind. So I would need to purge myself of that. To a professional, right? Um, it would interrupt my spirituality and my fathering. So at some point, I think that conversation has to come up with him. You know,
I also think that other fatherhood conversation should come up. So let's do that.
Hey yo, Donut White, no muzzle. Sparring Minds live every Friday. Let's go. Look, it's Sparring Minds. If you don't know the name, look us up. You know it's all facts when you got Chef Maine cooking up a couple of brothers who know all about the struggle. Black excellence, you know we just work hard and hustle. Whenever you want that urban talk, you know we keep it real. Mr. Maritime on the mic, yeah, you know the deal is real life. Hotel High Tower bringing you the feel. DJ Payne, keep it 100. Matter of fact, keep it a mill. Let's go.
Yo. What's popping? Episode. What's this, man? Damn, I'm losing count. 170 something. 170 something.
73, right? Right, Ant?
173? I believe it's 173, right? Okay. What's going on, everybody? We're back. Sparring Minds listeners, viewers. Appreciate everybody rocking out with us on another Friday night during our prime. The whole gang here, well, exception of the good brother Payne. Shout out to Payne. Enjoying his Friday night, man. Salute, my brother. This definitely would have been a great conversation for you, as you are one of the best fathers that I know. You know what I mean? So this definitely would have suited you well. HT, what's going on? How are you, good brother?
You're on mute, God.
You on mute, family, or something's up with your mic?
Yo,
it was automatically put
173 episodes, man.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
I knew he wasn't gonna let him live.
Can't be serious.
It's funny because I was here early making sure all this was right.
Right.
And I don't know what happened, but yeah, we here, man. We here.
What's good, man? And we got the good brother Khair rocking out with us, man. Father Empowerment Circle.
Pleasure to meet you.
Roxbury alumni, you know what I mean? Good brother in the building with us tonight.
You said a Roxbury alumni?
He's a Rox. He is full blood Roxbury to his core.
You know, nobody can be perfect, dog. You know, but we got him.
Hey, listen,
Yeah, you're right. There's only two of us up here. So X out these other three.
But no, man, we in the pre-show, Hustle brought up a great scenario, and it still has me like, it's still getting in my ears about the scenario as far as so let's say, I don't know if you saw the pre-show or not, but you at 15, you know what I mean, you committed a murder, right? And so you carry that around with you for over a decade or so. You have a child, you know what I mean? And then Hustle, please, like, I don't want to butcher this story, so can you please like pick up?
I got you. So yeah, at 15, unfortunately, you murder someone, and you're able to get away with that. Cops never come, no arrests are ever made. A decade later, you meet the perfect lady. Life is great. You guys settle down, have a beautiful baby boy, and you do the fatherhood thing for the next 20 years, right? So now you're celebrating your 20-year wedding anniversary. You, your lovely wife, and your oldest, and your son at this point, right? You guys go out to a nice dinner. And the sheriff's office pulls up at this dinner with a warrant for your arrest for the murder 30 years ago, right? And so what I was asking the boys is it part of your responsibility before they ever got to that table to let your son know what you did when you were 15? Or you're on mute still, bro.
I think he got a call.
Oh, okay.
At least what it looks like. I see him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So yeah, is it is it your responsibility just to kind of discuss that before shit hits the fan, or are you living in ignorance, hoping it never comes up, you never got to speak about it, and you can die with it? That's kind of where you are. And again, I didn't want to do that on the show. I know we got a whole bunch of other things to talk about, but it was something that came up in my mind. I want to talk about it in the pre-show. So
I don't see anybody really telling their kid that after it's done past that long. I just don't see it. I mean, you know, shoot, after a certain amount of time, like if you ain't had peace with it, I mean, you might as well just turn yourself in. But I don't see that. ever happening with me. If I had ever done something, there's no way I'm telling my son. They would have to take me out there kicking and screaming, and he'll figure it out later on. Once they give him the police report, what went down. Cause
Yeah, but then what
like,
happened to the message you've been talking to him about for the last 20 years? That whole message
yeah,
is
because that whole message is just right out the door right now.
the whole message is no good.
You know, like I see it just really being hard to tell your son or even anyone that you killed someone. To tell you the truth, I mean,
Well,
because now you're
well,
worried
of
about
course,
whether or not
but
this person is going to sit here and talk. Like,
well,
nah,
of course, that's part, right? But this is really a focus on the hypocritical aspect of it, right? That of course you've been telling him for 20 years, like, no, when you're mad, go take a walk. When you're mad, do this.
listen,
And
the
now,
world is made up of nothing but hypocritical things. I'm all right. I'll live.
yeah. So yeah, Chef. I mean, what we can do is we can take it over to the TSMP page. We can finish that discussion over there if you want. I know we
Yeah,
got a
that's
heavy.
Yeah,
this is a good one. This is definitely a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, we got to put that up there. That might have to replace the main music minute for a day or so, man. You know what I mean? That's a good conversation.
T-Chanel, what's up?
T Chanel, Femme Freaks,
Freak.
going on, my sister.
Yes.
So yeah, man. I mean, let's get into it, man. Let's get into the main parts of the show, man, and just get into the whole fatherhood scenario and stuff like that. So my first sorry about that. My first question is fatherhood today, right? What is fatherhood today to you? To each and every one of you guys, what does that mean? You know what I mean? What does that mean to you guys today? Start rapid around the room. We'll start with our guest. We'll start with Kari. What is fatherhood today? What does that mean to you?
I was thinking about this. I mean, I think about the P's. I think about being present. I think about pouring into my children. I think
Mm-hmm.
about providing and protecting. To me, it comes down to those things. That's the father I strive to be. And when I say protecting, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, and that's big nowadays, considering the internet and the social media. Protection takes on a whole new dimension. So that's what I have to say.
Okay.
I would
Jones.
add on to that. Let me jump
Okay.
in.
Go ahead, HG, go
I'd
ahead.
add into that, man. And I like the fact that you highlighted all the P's. One P that I would add to that is patience. The way we came up,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we can all relate. The way we came up was a lot different than the way our kids are coming up today. And there's a lot more distractions today than what we had to deal with coming up. And we have to navigate some of those distractions with them. Some of them, some of those distractions we're familiar with, some we're not familiar with. I don't have TikTok. You see what I mean? So there's certain things I have to learn and understand through my child.
Yeah.
And, there's a level of patience that comes into a lot of that because, you don't know everything. There's things you just don't know that you have to learn on the fly or you have to learn with them. So I think P would be a nice thing to add to that list, Kyrie.
Or little.
Yeah. Being there, that's the biggest thing. Being there. Teaching and mentoring, and just trying to understand them. Like you said, they grew up a lot different from us. I always say we grew up a lot tougher. Our fathers, and they were a lot tougher on us than I think we kind of are on our kids and nowadays. So just trying to be patient and just understanding.
Yeah. Jones.
I think this question and a lot of this conversation is going to be. I speak from a different perspective than you guys, because our fatherhood journeys are different. So
Yeah.
I guess what I would say is the fatherhood journey has taken me to a place where I am an outlet of guidance. It's kind of what I am in this version of fatherhood, right? I didn't get the opportunity that you guys got to have your kids in the household every day with you as they grew up. I didn't get that opportunity, right? So I had to work with the path that I was given. And I think right now I sit in a space where I'm here for advice. I'm here to discuss. I'm here to provide options on how men do things. That's kind of been my role. And yeah, I think that's one of the bigger ones too, right? I think there's sometimes we get so caught up in being involved in maybe some of the day-to-day things. Hey, how are your friends doing? How is school? And that you forget that also you're there to kind of help blaze a path for them in terms of how men move forward. So that's kind of where I sit.
Yeah, I mean, I echo pretty much the same sentiments from everyone. Again, patience has been the biggest thing. Like that's the one thing for me that has always stood out, has always been at the forefront because it was something that I didn't have before I became a father. My patience was very, very, very thin. You know what I mean? And I find myself using these scenarios when I do my cooking classes because I'm like, yo, I have to remember that these are other people's children that I am responsible of and part of when they're in my care and around them. And so I have to even have an even more heightened level of patience with other people's kids as well as my own. You know what I mean? So I find myself in father mode so many times outside of just being with my own child. But definitely patience. And definitely just time, just like spending time. Like there was a time when I wasn't able to do different things, and like the time meant the most. You know what I'm saying? So today for me, fatherhood is kind of just meant on like the time and stuff like that, like spending, creating memories, creating moments, like whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just big. You know what I mean? And definitely just having a daughter that also increases your level of
100%.
patience
100%.
even more. You know what I mean? Having a girl in this day and age of how kids are growing up with social media, Snapchat, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So your patience has to be like on another level. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I would say. What that means to me as far as like the patience. You know what I mean? Part of it, because it's it's a big thing, man. It's crazy. It's definitely crazy.
I think the biggest thing with patience when it comes to being a girl dad is, we're men. We know how to raise men. So some of that stuff kind of comes easy. When you have daughters, the conversation changes a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No question. Was you about to jump back in, Little? You good? You good? Nobody?
Nah, you're right.
I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, raising girls is definitely something different, boy. Boys smack them in the back of the head. They get it right. Girls, it's a whole lot different. But yeah.
Well,
Oh,
one
man.
thing I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt anybody,
No, go
but
ahead.
No, you good.
my son and I can have a dust up. 5 minutes later, we're good. Daughters, woo, it's gonna take a minute.
It's going to take
You
a
know,
minute.
Yeah.
it's gonna take a minute. And sometimes I was too heavy-handed with her, and not patient enough, and it
Yeah.
did some damage to our relationship. And not as careful with my promises as I would have liked to have been.
Yeah.
So it's a learning process, and just staying humble, being willing to own your mistakes is so critical. And another P that's been coming up for me as I hear everybody talk, I pray for all of these other P's. You know what I'm saying? So prayer.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
Word up.
Yeah.
How do you define fatherhood? Like, how do you define it? Like, what does that exactly mean? To you. How do you
Yeah, I'm
personally?
learning something new every day.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. Pretty much. Jones. Anybody else?
Fatherhood, it's gonna sound almost identical in my world, and again, I know a lot of people don't live in my world, but fatherhood sounds almost identical to protector, right? It's almost the same definition to me, right? My job
Yeah.
is to make sure that the children are comfortable enough in a space that they can then view life from a certain lens, right? And you can't do that if you're not comfortable, which means you can't do that if you're not protected. So that's where the father, that the definition of fatherhood really resonates with me.
Yeah.
Let me
Kari. Yep.
one of the ways that I protected my children was to leave the toxic marriage that I was in. Because if I did not, it would not have ended well.
Yes.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
way or another, because it was extremely unhealthy, um, especially towards the latter years. And ever since I did that, I've gotten healthier and healthier, which allowed me to bring more of myself to being a father. It's tricky though, because since I was not in the house, that interrupted some of the opportunities I would have had otherwise. But it's a trade-off.
Right.
But I definitely feel as though, that was the right move to make, because it was not a good situation, So that just came up for me when you talked about protecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
echo those statements 100%, man.
Yeah. And I'm similar, just not marriage wise. It was more family wise. Born, raised Roxbury, my family, they in the streets for the most. And, you know, me kind of separating my kids and kind of keeping them away from like those type of family members and stuff, like you said, it's a trade off. They don't get to know those family members like they should, but at the same time, they don't follow those same roles that some of those, family members are out there doing, some of the things that they're out there doing and stuff of that nature. And I'm happy with the decision. My kids they're all thriving. Here and there they do get to meet certain family members, but they they're aware of what they do. So we're in a good space, and they know how to navigate.
Right.
So
How important is that? So you talked about family members. How important is that for your children to know like all parts of your family, like both sides, the good, the bad, like you know what I mean? I don't think it's fair to show them just one side of it. How do they just show
it
them
is
one
it,
side
no,
of it?
it's real important for them to know them, but at the same time, like I like I don't know, like it would be good for them to know them. I'll say that. But I, I'm cool with them, kind of staying away. Just it's that's just my way of protecting them.
There's something to be said about allowing a child. What we can't do is block relationships without ever
That's a
giving
lot.
them a chance to blossom. You've never given the relationship an opportunity to blossom based on your own opinions as an adult. You dig? And your relationship with that person. One thing that becomes a problem in those spaces is that because you don't like me and I'm your cousin, right? I may have been a total blessing to your child. I might be a barber and I could have hooked your child up forever. It could have been a dope relationship because me and you don't get along. Doesn't mean I had ill will towards the child. But you took that adult energy and passed it down to a kid, blocking that blessing. And I think that's a dangerous precedent.
It's not a dispute that I have with any of them. It's just that they're out doing shit that I can't have my kids out there doing. You know, so they see me here and there. We hug, kiss, whatever it is, but we do two different things. So I go my way, they go their way.
You know where I've seen that come into fruition is Black families, of course,
Right.
all of us have a church family. All of us have some part of our family that's in the church, right? And
Mhm.
I've been in situations where I grew up without cousins. I never even got the chance to rock with them because I wasn't in the church like they were, right? So then the message came back like, oh, well, we don't really want to because they might go against the message. And that's, again, I think as parents, sometimes we got to be cognizant of trying to over police relationships without a cause, without a real issue. I think that we have to be careful of that. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. I couldn't let a relationship that I have with a family member, I couldn't let my adult relationship let that have an effect on my child's relationship with that other family member, that uncle, that brother, that sister, that cousin. That has nothing to do with the child.
Right.
They're in a child's place. And again, if they feel a way about, yo, I love my uncle so and so, you know what I mean? Like, why am I going to get in the way of that and say, well, you can't talk to them, you can't speak to them for an adult issue? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can never see myself doing that. I think that's taking it a bit too far because I've personally been in that situation where I was like, no, listen, I don't, whatever's going on over here, that's between us. I got nothing to do with you. And I would tell the child, I would tell my child that. I'm like, no, listen, that's still your uncle, your aunt, whatever the case would be at the end of the day. And regardless of whatever we got going on as adult, that's not your business. That's not your place. You know what I mean? Like, so no, you stay over there and you know what I mean, you go and you enjoy your relative. You know what I'm saying? I would never want to block that kind of relationship. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a bit too much because to Cabo's point, you're bringing adult stuff and involving a kid in that, you know what I mean? And that's a little bit tough. That's a little bit different.
Obviously, with the disclaimer that the child is not in danger. Like, obviously, this is not a safety concern, right? This is, like outside of that, let them give you a reason to not have that relationship, and then we can go from there.
I don't take those type of chances. I don't take those type of chances. Listen, I remember at one of my lowest points, I lost a son maybe 27 years ago. At my lowest point, I had an uncle walk in. Instead of consoling me, he goes over to my, back in them days, you had the big entertainment centers. He throws a line of coke up there. Hey, take a hit of this.
Jesus.
Nah, I'm all set. I'm good.
This is an uncle? I'm sorry,
This is uncle. This is uncle.
This was 27. I guess he's figuring coke was okay at that time, and that was why it was okay. Just do a line.
Listen,
you'll feel better.
I'm just being real. I don't take chances. I know certain people in my family. I know them well. I'm all right.
Yeah,
I'm cool.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But so I don't want to stay on this much longer because I know you got other things. But how does now again? When can you lean on the lesson that you've given your son, right? To even if he is around their uncle, to then have the same reaction that you did. Because at some point in real life, if it's not your uncle, it's somebody from school. Or it's some chick who's filling up a white shirt. Like, it's somebody, right, who's gonna say, yo, try this. And then you have to be able to rely on the things that you've said to then govern them. So I just wonder how that's added.
Well, I mean, if you're teaching them as they grow, they'll know. Okay, can't mess with that. I'm not. My father talked to me about this type of stuff.
Yeah, but again, you're blocking them from being in an environment to be tested. Again,
guess what? I am perfectly fine with that. I am perfectly fine with that. It doesn't matter.
I understand.
He said,
look. See, I'm perfectly fine with that because what happens next if something was to go wrong? Now I'm on first 48. Yeah. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Word.
Is it part of fatherhood? Your responsibility to help them make decisions when you're not there. That's part of fatherhood, right? And I totally understand you building the bubble around them. I get it. I get it with you 100%. but your presence is not always there, and they're going to need to know how to move and react in those situations without your presence, and be able to hear your voice in the back of their head under duress. That's the critical nature of fatherhood.
Yeah,
Not just
it's
you protecting them from that, but you know.
it's interesting, right? And it's crazy because you can't protect them. And I haven't had the conversation with my daughter yet, but we went to a job fair. You guys know about it. We went to a job fair like a
Yeah,
couple weeks
yeah,
ago. Um, and there were a lot of children there without their fathers there. You know what I mean? So I want to paint a scenario too and just ask her, like, if I wasn't there and you were there and all that melee happened, what would you have done? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? How would you react in that kind of situation? I can't wait to hear the answer. I'm make sure I tell everybody later because I'm just curious to know, like, in those moments where you can't protect your children all the time, you would just hope that the things that you taught them and told them, and they'll just like, will adhere to it and take that, on because it's a tough thing, man. But let me get back into it. So what shaped your view of what a father should be? Your own father or other men in the culture, like uncles, brothers, or things like that. You know what I mean? What shaped your view, like as a father? You know what I mean? And like, when you first became a father, what really shaped that view of what it should be like? And who were some of the people in your life that kind of like played a role into the way that you father. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it's for all of us, it could be more than one person that kind of help, shape that mold. So let's just wrap that around the room. Let's start with the guest, Kari.
Yeah, man. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of men who were good role models. Definitely old school. They used to call my grandfather the hammer because back in the day, when we're talking like um, in the 40s and 50s, if not earlier. Um, you know, Men could have more heavy hand with, you know, their women,
yeah.
the children in the house. And I remember, um, Chef, you remember my uncle Sharif,
Uncle Sharif, yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes,
coming to
sir.
the circle, and he said, I hated my father.
Mm.
All his boys were out of his house by the age of 18, you know, because they had to get away from the hammer. And they were in the military and they saw all these cats crying and so forth. Like, I don't know what the hell y'all talking about. This is like paradise. The first time I
Yeah.
ever slept in my own bed without somebody else being in it, and I ain't got to deal with him. This is paradise. So I think there was him, and then he impacted my uncles, who in turn impacted me. I grew up in a family business. The reason why I call myself Nubian nephew is because my grandfather started a Nubian notion out of the back of his barber shop when he brought back some artifacts from
Uh-huh.
Nubi. And that blossomed into an idea at the time here. But at any rate, I had to answer to my uncle Jake, you know, and he he didn't take any nonsense, and I say all this to say that um, I was held to a certain standard by different men, and I saw how they raised their children. A lot of them did things differently than their father did, you know, but
Mhm.
they all got a certain uh, standard for the type of men they needed to be. I have, I have, all my uncles are 80 plus and still living, you know, and
Wow.
that was very much based upon and I have four uncles who are 80 plus. And I think that's very much based upon the lifestyle that their father showed them and their mother supported. He was the hammer, she was more the pillow. Um, and they developed that lifestyle. I don't want to take up more airtime, but I will say this.
No, you good.
I had a cousin named Shahid who died of cancer at 50. And his wife, man, she took the kids from Atlanta to New Jersey. Wherever they went, he went, you know. and he just chased them around. He came to live with me for a while because the kids were closer, and I just
Yeah.
saw him just dedicate himself to his boys, and now they're great young men, because despite all those obstacles that he had to face, he was dedicated to being in their lives, and now that I face my obstacles and I'm in a difficult co-parenting situation, that definitely that example, it definitely sticks with me, and I draw upon it. I'm like, well, Shah could do it. I can do this. I can handle it. So all those men impacted me.
Word up. Word up. Jones, HT, and want to jump in?
I mean, for me, I had to take cues from outside the home. I was raised in a single parent rather. Me and my mom, siblings. So I took cues from my granddad. I took cues from the small amount of fathers in my community. My best friend at the time, his dad was there. His dad was present. I had uncles that were around, but they didn't live here. So it's like I'd take cues from them whenever they were around, but like they were out of state. So you see them once or twice a year, but some things that they did kind of stood out. But yeah, you take cues from everybody and kind of work forward with what feels right for you, I guess. So it's like you get the effort of providing from one, you get the level-headedness from the other, you get patience, you get guidance, you take it all and kind of put it all together and into its until the puzzle's complete, until you figure out what works for you. Certain things that I the way I kind of father is a byproduct of a lot of that. Some things worked for me, some things I wouldn't attempt because it's just out of my character to do. But it took a community of men, both related and non-related, to kind of shape my approach in that space.
It's a collection of individuals. Hightower and I talk about this often, right? I was brought up in a very Disney World kind of situation, right? Had both parents in the home. Like I didn't know anything other than that, right? I grew up around people who didn't, and it confused me when I was a kid, right? I was like, "Where's your dad? I don't even know him. Oh, what? That's strange, right? I'm a junior, right? It was what it was, right? So I grew up, and there's two really important parts of this conversation. I grew up around any combination of 6 men at one time, right? 3 uncles, my pops, my grandfather, and Bill Cosby, right? And you may laugh, right? Oh, what the fuck is you talking about, Chuck, right? So I had my youngest uncle, Dwayne, right? And he was this cool nigga playing sports, and he was everything I wanted to be in sports, right? So when he said something, I listened. Let me also start by saying all of these men, and here's what's going to be important as we continue this conversation, were fully invested in what my future looked like. These are just some guys down at the community center who I may or may not see. These guys are fully invested in what happened with me. And when I get to the last part of this, you'll see why that investment matters. So my Uncle Dwayne is a super cool cat, sports. I wanted to be like him. So when he talked
That's my
about
guy.
yeah. My Uncle Tyrone, military. Kari just talked about this. When you got somebody in the military, they have a different vibe to them, right? They have a different energy, right? Their life is about order, right? And consistency. And my Uncle Tyrone brought that to me, right? My Uncle Midi was this, he was the life of every party. Everybody wanted to be around him. He got invited to everything. He was that nigga. I wanted to be that too. You see what I'm saying? My pops was always labeled a man's man. You know a man's man because every man respects him. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You that's what my pops was, right? So I'm drawing that energy. Like, okay, when I'm 45, everybody around me is gonna be like, yo, Chuck's a real one. That's what I wanted from that journey, right? My grandfather was this quiet kind of leader, right? He didn't say much, but you knew when he meant business. I wanted that. And so I locked into those energies. We talked about Bill Cosby, right? At some point, I want to have fun. at some point, I want to be able to lip sing songs on the stairs, right? I want to be able to do that too, because that's my nature. So I take that from him, right? And so all aspects of being a man, all of that, I have to answer to each one of these 6 individuals. Am I on the right path, right? That I was in my head all the time. But here's the other part. I had a slew of aunties and grandmothers and of course my mother. Why does that matter, Chuck? When you listen to the women of the family talk about the men, that matters, right? And they look at them and they revere the men of the family. They respect the men of the family. If you don't grow up understanding and seeing that dynamic, you don't know how to carry that forward. You don't know how to explain that to your lady later. You don't know how to explain that to your kids later of, yeah, I got it. And then your lady being able to say, don't worry about it. Your pops got it. Don't worry about it. He got it. There's something about reinforced energy that comes from women that matters in this conversation about how you become who you're supposed to be. So when you throw all that into the gumbo pot, that should shape your future and shape how you become a man and a father.
Church. Little.
Yeah.
Church.
Between my Uncle L, my Uncle Bubba, and Kevin Smalls, who practically saved my life growing up. You know, he was a street worker, used to come by the house and stuff like that. Those 3 guys, you know, they basically shaped me, you know, because growing up, you know, my father's around, but he wasn't in the household, you know, and stuff of that nature. There was even times when I didn't see him and stuff like that for maybe months on end. So those 3 guys, but none of them shaped me more than my father because I wanted to do everything that he didn't do for me for my kids. And whatnot. Probably one of the nicest guys ever, though. If you ever met him, I mean,
I love your pops. I love your pops.
Nubian nephew, you probably know, but you probably don't even know that's my pops. He's probably been next door inside your shop for years on end. Probably wouldn't even notice. But my father worked right there. So, but you know, I just wanted to make sure I was there, present for my kids, because my father was like probably my biggest superstar growing up. He was the guy that got me into wanting to play football, the guy that got me into playing basketball, but he's never been to a game, never seen me play. And, you know, I played in the area, you know, but so I just wanted to make sure that I did everything for my kids that I probably didn't get and whatnot. So those are my 4 guys right there.
Yeah, so what shaped my view as a fatherhood was as a father, like the first was probably my grandfather. My grandfather Preston McNeil, rest in peace to him. And it was because when I was young, I used to go over to his house, my grandparents' house, and my grandfather had 12 kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, had no more than a second or third grade education, but I was so intrigued by the fact that he was a businessman. Like as a youngster, and I used to be able to go in his office and hang out in his office, and I'm like one of the only grandkids that he would let be in his space and stuff like that. So seeing him, he had an oil business, you know what I mean? Like, you know, he was a farmer. Like it was just so many layers to him as a person, you know what I mean? Then, you know, going to church with my grandparents, sitting in the deacon's pulpit. That was because of my grandfather. He'd let me sit in the deacon's pulpit with him as a kid. So like he was a man of God. He was a man's man. You know what I mean? Very respected by the people around him, you know what I mean? His family and stuff like that. And, you know, to all you guys' points with the P's, he was the pure definition of provide, protect. And again, because he was a church man, prayer, like, again, he was the first person in my life as a man. And there's nothing against my own father, But my grandfather was like someone I kind of like I idolized at first because he had all these qualities. I was like amazed at when I started to learn, like, yo, this damn a second or third grade education from the South, and you can like be a businessman like that. That messed me up. I was like, oh shit! Like I always remember that type of stuff. You know what I mean? In my mind, and just like the type of person he was, what he commanded, church, all that aspect of it. You know what I mean? So he definitely had a huge shape on not just like the type of father I am, but just like how I live my life, wanting to be an entrepreneur and things like that, was because I saw that at an early age where I was like, yo, this is crazy what he's able to do. And, again, making sure at the end of the day, it messed me up because, he gave my grandmother all of the money from it. So that kind of threw me off too. But you know what I'm saying? But that's just how it was in those times. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, definitely my grandfather. Um, my dad, again, to a degree, but I would definitely say more of my grandfather than my father. You know what I mean? And it's nothing against him. It was just, again, he just showed me at a really, really young age what it was like. My dad was in the streets. You know what I'm saying too. So, but he
Yeah.
still spent time, but he was definitely in the streets too. I mean, so I got a chance to see like both sides of it, from my grandfather. So, I mean, that was really dope. Good. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to clean something up. I don't want to paint my grandfather as a monster.
Yeah.
One thing that my uncle Sharif said is that all his boys came back to him,
Mm-hmm.
even though they
Mm.
ran from him. They
Yeah.
came back to him.
Yeah.
And I think about my situation. This dude he never weighed more than 145 pounds. He never worked for anybody else a day in his life and raised 10 kids.
Mhm.
So that's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So,
That definitely.
you know what I mean? So if he got a little edge to him, I think, we got to forgive that. You know
Yeah,
what I
give
mean?
him some grace. Yeah, give him some grace.
100%. 100%.
Word up.
Hmm.
You know what's interesting, Chef, about something you mentioned there real quick about your grandfather giving your grandmoms the money when he came home? I
Mhm.
still do that. And I saw that from my grandfather and my
Yeah.
pops.
Yeah.
And so we've talked before about on the show about money and how it ties to relationships, but
Yep.
obviously just characteristics like this, right? I saw he came home, he kept 100 for himself so we can go rocking Saturday night.
Right.
You take care of the kids, you take care of the bills in the house, whatever. He went out and bought a 6-pack and sat in the back of the truck with the boys down in Roxbury, down with Little's pops. He handled what he was supposed to do.
It's a
Was he
fact.
there reading me bedtime stories? Nah. But he did what he was supposed to do. When you take those lessons and you be like, yo, that's what men are supposed to do. So now I'm sitting here in 2025 doing the exact same things because that's what you're shown. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
No, definitely good stuff. I mean, I know we're getting towards the closing ending time. But I do want to touch on something else. How can men support other men in fatherhood and mentorship? And how important is that right there? Because everyone has a different journey. You know what I mean? Obviously, fatherhood, there is no handbook. We all know this journey so well. There's nothing to come with it. It's a learn as you go type of job. But for other guys who out there who may not be able to, how is it that others can be supported in fatherhood? You know what I mean? Like how do you support others in fatherhood and mentorship?
Mhm.
I think a lot of it is
Yeah.
you gotta show by doing. A lot
Yeah.
of times words kind of go in one ear out the other, but
Sure.
if you're not living or doing what you're saying in this space,
Yeah.
you lose all respect and credibility. You have to show those coming up behind you or your peers for that matter how best to do things or how you do things. Now, if you're doing things the wrong way, people are going to take that and be like, whatever. But if you want to be a stand-up guy and command respect in this space, you got to lead by example. You got to show more than you kind of just talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Little?
I'm you know, being able to mentor, going off of what Hightower also said, being able to show, but, like for the younger guys that me and you, come on, during the summer, every now and then, a guy, EJ, will come talk to me and he'll ask me for advice. And, of course, I'm willing to give him what I know, and just hopefully he takes parts of it, and, you know, it all works out for him. So just being able to sit here and just talk to some of the young folks.
Right, right. Shout out to EJ. EJ came to one of our meetings too a while back.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to jump in there?
You guys know this kind of question is one of those things I don't delve into too much. I don't play with support circle terminology. That's not really my thing. But I do think that living in community matters, right? I do think that, in a perfect world, what would happen is that our kids would be the best of friends. That's what would happen, right? That's what I mean by living in community, is that because we're always together, they're always together, right?
Yeah.
That's a level of support, and having a built-in friendship base that matters. Because of course we get our regular support. We're playing cards on a Thursday night. But now I got Trey there and he's teaching Kayla how to do something. You see what I'm saying? And so now those relationships are forged. One of some of the greatest struggles teens go through is developing friendships. Some of the greatest struggles live in that area. So if we can support that by giving them something built in, by living within a community, I think that's the biggest step. Unfortunately, I live here in North Carolina, and so I think to my fault, my life has kind of put me in a space where I would, in a different world, be a key driver in that kind of stuff, right? When I come to town, we got 30 motherfuckers trying to get up. Like, hey, Chuck, what's it? That would be the kind of energy I would have if I was there. I'd be the lightning rod for living in that community. Unfortunately, I'm not.
That's
But
a
I think
fact.
that's what I think that stuff is missing. We had it when we were coming up. You know what I mean? I was friends of my mother's work friend. I didn't know her from a hole in the wall, but because that community was being built, you had that support where I would see her, hey, how you doing? That's nice. You know people.
Yeah.
You get those relationships long lasting. I think that's a big deal. So live in community is my answer to how you support fathers and men.
It's funny you say that, Chuck. The part about community. I was on a Zoom call last night and I saw a familiar name. And I was like, oh, this is a layup right here. Let me go ahead and make this call. So, I called my man real quick. I was like, yo, is such and such going to be on this tour? Because my daughter's going to be on this tour. He was like, yeah. I said, bet. They need to be roommates. Because one, she's going to be on this tour with kids she don't know. And two, so is this other young lady, possibly. You know what I mean? And now the connectivity is you two don't know each other, but your parents are really, really good peoples. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, you said that.
Don't get no better than that.
It
don't get no better than that.
It gets no better than that.
I mean? Because what could have been a very isolated situation
Yep.
now turns into her living within community. And they may not know each other that well, but you know what? They will.
They will.
Yeah.
And that matters.
On their own too, not because of just
By the end of that trip.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the end of that trip. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
by the end of that trip.
Yeah.
It matters.
Word up.
Yeah, that's the hope, man. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Khair, you want to get in there, man, before we get up out of here? We up against the clock, but I want to hear your answer before we get up out of here.
Yeah, you brothers have been talking about like community, and my whole purpose for bringing together the Fathers Initiative is the fact that, mothers tend to mother in community and fathers father in silos. And so I'm trying to, with my initiative, I'm trying to break down that, and bring us together to be vulnerable and share our stories. Stories are powerful, and that's another thing that shapes my parenting is I can draw upon the stories of other men, the trials of other men, and benefit from it. Now we're trying to reimagine who we want to be as a circle, and we want to add a mentorship component to it, and we're working towards that. A lot of the guys are on the older side, but as we move forward, we want to bring in younger guys and give them a chance to be part of the circle. There's some intergenerational stuff, but we want to work on that more, because that could be powerful. And I feel I'm fortunate because I work with young adults. Some of them are fathers. I teach young adults, and so I get the opportunity to have conversations with them and break down some of the toxic beliefs and limiting beliefs that they have about what it means to be a man and what it means to be a father. You can't
Give me an
ask
example of that, sir. Give me an
yeah,
example.
you can't ask for help. Real men don't cry. Um, some of these beliefs that that
we grew up with.
yeah, what we grew up with. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just help them recognize that it takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes strength to be able to ask for help.
Yeah.
And one kid told me, he said, "Yeah, real men don't cry." I said, "I cry. You think I'm a real man?" And I was a kid who was this is somebody I had a good relationship with, who respected me. And so,
Mhm.
you need that example that interrupts the belief system that you have, right? So I get the opportunity to just kind of push back on some of that stuff for some of the younger guys.
I'll close it out with, to Chuck's point, community. Like, I think that's just the best way, for me to do it. I try to lead by example, by someone who does a lot of things in the community from a positive standpoint, not just again for my kids, other people's kids. So I just think the whole community thing is big. It's how I was raised, growing up on a street where if you did something, got in trouble, like so and so the neighbor would be able to discipline you or whatever the case may be. Before it even got back to your parent, you might have had your ass whipped like 4 or 5 times by the neighbors. So just community, and just hopefully we can get back to that place of community where that happens a lot, because the youngins nowadays, man, they need us more than ever. So critical, so important. So no, definitely. Anybody else? It's getting up against that time. It's the clock. Little.
Today's mirror time. A father is a man who expects his son to be as good a man as he meant to be.
Mm.
So that's how in today's episode.
Oh man, great one, man.
That was
Parting
dope.
shots. Any parting shots before we get up out of here?
I haven't met Khair personally, but I hope to soon. Pleasure having you, man. Just pleasure having you, man. This was a dope
Man,
conversation.
I really appreciate y'all inviting me into the space, man.
No.
It's so important.
I think just really quickly, 2 points. So likewise, Ant, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting the young brother, but I think that
I appreciate you calling me a young brother. I like
you got the grades. You get the grades. I look forward to a secondary discussion, because these guys here will tell you that, from what appears to me at first glance, you and I sit on opposite sides of the fence on a lot of different things. And I'd love to explore more of that conversation, right? The very recent development of what's being defined as toxic masculinity. I think that's a great conversation that we should have. So we'll get something done in the future, Chef. Let's set something up, because I think there is a discussion there. I'd like to dive deeper into that. But my other parting shot is that I don't want to go into this weekend without all of us taking a minute to boogie as well. So we're gonna do that as well, Chef.
You listen. You know how I feel about it, man. Parting shot. Are you you dropping it right now?
I'm waiting.
Okay. Parting shot, man, is Khair, good brother. Thank you for pulling up on the podcast, bringing up. Like I said, I've been telling you I want to get you on this platform for a little bit now, man. What you started is amazing. It's dope. Like I said, I'm honored to be a part of it. Like I said, and I tell these guys all the time about what those meetings are like and everything like that. Scheduling, conflicting is kind of why I haven't been able to get my guys there. But we definitely gonna work on something. Hopefully
Yeah,
before
I
the
definitely wanted to be for this
before the
one, but
season.
I was doing the out of town birthday celebration stuff.
Hey, listen, man, you
Understood.
only turned
It's all
50
good,
once,
man.
brother.
It's all
So
good, man.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. I appreciate you, Chef. I really do, man.
nah,
Appreciate
nah.
you all. Hmm.
Yeah, nah, you know that. It's all love, man. But hey, listen, man, we will be remiss if on a Friday night after the podcast, if we didn't do anything else, man. We got a boogie, yo.
let's move tonight.
Got a boogie. Capo.
Look, ain't no discussion, this bang with percussion. Came from the bottom, you know I need something. Roxbury baby, the home of the hustlers. Just watch what you say, cause them women that cut you. Can't be no gremlin, I was a goon. Making them plays and busting them moves. Trips out of town, we making shit boom. Built up to win, they want me to lose. Turned to my hustle and started the wave. Ran in them cribs so we could get paid. Ran through the valley with J-Bo and Bray. Turned it up, nigga, they heard what I said. Thankful I made it to the top with no delay. And I'm dodging that fraud and fake shit. Fuck all that playing. I know I'm destined for greatness. I put that work in, no delaying. Look, running down on them, ain't stopping for shit. Since a young nigga been popping, little bitch. Been had the juice, so you know that it's lit. Ain't no half stepping, they praying I slip. Smith and Wesson go and get you them clips. If we loading them up, then we letting them rip. Niggas be tough until they get hit. Watch with that faking and reaching this shit. Word to the reaper, I'm coming for mine. When it went through your chest and it came out your spine. One phone call and I was on to the guys. Now the young niggas blitzing now, it ain't no surprise. Fuck all the ops, free all of the guys. Can't take no work, got plays on the line. When I touch down, nigga, you know it's go time. Betting on me, you know it's all mine. Picture this, these niggas is mad, I got it lit. Had to jump in my bag, got all my shit. Had to put in that work, I grind for this. Look, speaking on me, man, you must be a fan. Don't worry about me, go and slide for your man. These niggas is broke, now I understand. I do what I want, they do what they can. Picture this, these niggas is mad, I got it lit. Had to jump in my bag, got all my shit. Had to put in that work, I grind for this. Picture this, these niggas is mad, I got it lit. Had to jump in my bag, got all my shit. Had to put in that work, I grind for this. Picture this, these niggas is mad, I got it lit. Had to jump in my bag, got all my shit. Had to put in that work, I grind for this.